time for dinner with Nanny Bubby, or it's time for pumpkin scones with Nanny Bubby. I've got to flip this apron of mine. Let me see. I don't know why I have to do this. I say this all the time, we used to be able to do this before we went live, but I don't want Nanny Bubby logo going the other way. You might not recognize me. So I hope you guys all had a wonderful weekend. I certainly did. I spent time in Sedona, Arizona, going to Tanya's beautiful wedding. We have a hilarious story to tell you with regards to the challah. Boy, let me tell you, it was a 16-hour rising challah. It just took forever and ever and ever, but we had patience with it. We let it do its thing. We let it finally come together. I think the altitude might have been, hey Lene, might have been an issue, not sure. But you know, I always say that every challah has a message in it, and it will reflect back to you your energy and the message of that week. And at the end of the day, what we realized is that 16-hour rising challah was actually 1 hour for every month that Tanya and her fiance actually had to wait to get married. They were, hey Joanne, they were originally scheduled to get married in June of 2020 in Italy. And a couple months before June, they had to, you know, Italy shut down and they had to cancel those plans. And they waited a long 16 months to plan another wedding and get married. It was absolutely beautiful, but we realized that the challah taught us that with gratitude, which is why we say the blessing, hey Judy, and love, which is why we say it at a wedding, because we cannot sustain ourselves without food, the challah, and love, the wedding. So gratitude, love, and patience, which was the 16-hour rise of that bread. And those three things, gratitude, love, and patience, are a fabulous recipe for a wonderful marriage, which was part of my little blessing when she asked me to do the blessing for the challah, and those were the words that I spoke. So hey Marty and Roseanne and everybody who's joining, it is a joy to be back here. Sedona was absolutely beautiful, very busy. I'm surprised because I used to go to Sedona when I was in college, and it was just a little sleepy town, no more, just filled with people. I could drive up Sedona on Thursday, not able to drive it on Saturday. It was bumper to bumper, about an hour to get up 2 miles of a road. It was just crazy. But anyway, here we are, and I have the best, and I will post this copycat Starbucks pumpkin scone recipe for all of you in Gather with Nanny Bubby as soon as we're done here. But I'm going to show you how it's made. Tomorrow we will glaze it and then frost it. So this has 2 different frostings, just an actual glaze, powdered sugar and milk glaze that goes over the scones, and then there is a spice frosting that gets drizzled over the top of the glaze. So we'll do that tomorrow. Hey there, Frank. There you are. Nice to see all of you joining me. So I am out of flour because I used all of my flour from last year. Hey, Cynthia, yummy, yummy is right. I used all of my flour at the pizza bake with the sheriff and all the students and at-risk students that came out for that day. So I had bought a new organic package, for lack of a better word, flour. And what I wanted to do is show you how I work with the flour, and what I found is going to surprise you. So the first thing I'm going to do, which is no big deal, is I'm going to decant the flour, and I'm just going to put this down into the glass decanter. And there we go. That should be enough to get me through the holidays, and I really hope that I go through it, because when I looked at the expiration date of this flour, I was shocked and dismayed. I probably should have looked at it before I left the grocery store, but it says 11/30/21. Now, what are the chances I would buy flour that is going to expire in 30 days? I don't know how long it must have been sitting on that shelf or packaged in the back, but I did not realize it until I get home. So we're gonna have to go through this flour pretty quickly. But what I do is on the decanter itself, in black Sharpie, I will write at the back seam, because we always put the seam at the back, I will write 11, 30, 21. And because this is on glass, you know, it just comes off with a sponge and a little bit of soft scrub. And there you have it. So I will be able, at some point, I mean, if this were to expire in 22, I would keep my eye on that date, and then I would dump it after that. And that way you're always assured to have fresh flour to bake with, unless you're like me and you did not look at the date before you bought it. Which, I mean, I assumed, my God, I'm not sure how that happened, but I did not look at the date before I bought it. The other thing that I wanted to tell you is I want to show you this terracotta disc. Now, this is an OXO terracotta disc, and this disc you soak in water, and then you take this disc, and it is supposed to, this is an OXO container, you know, I'll show you here, let me show you. This container with this top. And this disc is supposed to fit on the inside of this. I took this off hoping that I would find where this attached, and there was just no place to attach it. But you at home may have the OXO container where this just snaps on to the top. And you take this and you put it with the terracotta disc. Let me reattach this here. There we go. Into and on top of your brown sugar with the terracotta disc. Are you following me so far? You would do this and you would stamp it closed. The terracotta disc would be in there, and the moisture from this disc would keep your powdered sugar safe. Well, hey Lisa and Cynthia. I think I said hello to Cynthia and Lisa. And so the brown sugar would not get hard. So when Harmony was helping me reorganize my pantry, she bought me this little terracotta disc, and there was nowhere to attach it. So I moistened it, and then I just put it inside the container along with the brown sugar. And lo and behold, shocking as it may seem, this brown sugar has been in here for several months, and look at how supple this brown sugar is. Look at that. It's the first time ever that my brown sugar that I have purchased that I've been able to keep it soft until the next time I used it. So this is by OXO. Can you see that? There you go. OXO. It's the terracotta disc. You can find it on Amazon. If I can find the link, I'll post it in Gather with Nanny Bubby for all of you. And put it into your, you know, sealing container, and leave your brown sugar, of course, in the bag, and use the little Ziploc that it gives you. But nonetheless, I cannot believe, for the first time in history, I know you hear put in, you know, a slice of white bread, or do this or do that, but a terracotta disc soaked for a while and then put inside, perfect. All right, so those are the little tidbits. Lisa says, but wait, don't you need to take it out of the bag? Well, no, I leave this in the bag. I left it in the bag with the terracotta disc inside it on the outside of the bag. And it just was enough moisture to keep, because no matter how you Ziploc this bag, Lisa, it's really not airtight. And so the moisture from the OXO terracotta disc was able to penetrate the bag and keep enough moisture inside the container so that it didn't dry out. But I didn't know you need to leave it in the bag. Well, I did, and all I can tell you is that it worked that I left it in the bag. I just didn't, you know, where was I going to put the disc? Yeah, okay, it makes sense, so I don't need to elaborate. All right, there you go. Okay, so let's go to making this pumpkin scone terracotta. There's two reasons why I wanted to make this. Number one, here is the amazing pumpkin from last week that we made, which will last in my refrigerator for about 2 weeks, or in the freezer for about 6 months, I am told, which is awesome. And I just wanted to make something fabulous out of this fresh pumpkin. And I am going to be making the fresh pumpkin Wednesday on Channel 8. I have to go to Channel 8 Wednesday rather than Thursday this week because guess what? 6 years ago, or maybe 5 years ago, when Harmony became a judge, don't you know I got chosen for jury duty? And I thought because my daughter was a judge that they would never choose me to be on a jury, but they did. And it was a wonderful experience. I'd never been chosen before, all the cases that I was pending to be on. Hi, Rona. Nice to have you here. Rona Mendelson. Love Rona Mendelson. Had always been dismissed, and though I'd always wanted to serve on a jury, I was never able to, and I got chosen. It was a great experience, but don't you know, I just got jury duty again, so I have to go show up for jury duty on Thursday. So I had to transfer my Channel 8 live segment from Thursday to Wednesday. So I'm going to be making and showing Rocky how to actually make fresh pumpkin, which I think she's going to love. She's going to go home with fresh pumpkin to her mom. I'll let her take what we make home, and I think it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. So that's the first reason I'm making pumpkin scones. The second reason I'm making pumpkin scones is that it is Harmony's very favorite thing to have in the month of November. She used to love to go to Starbucks and eat their pumpkin scones and their pumpkin lattes, and it's her birthday month, and so I always love making pumpkin scones for Harmony. So I'm going to try this recipe out. I did it once, and by accident, I bought, instead of pumpkin puree, I bought pumpkin pie mix, which means it had everything already in it and it was just too wet and they did not turn out. So I'm using my own homemade pumpkin puree and we're gonna get started. So here's how we go. Any questions so far? Somebody's sending me hearts. Thank you. I can never tell who the hearts are from, but let's get started. Here we go. Okay, so we're gonna put in 2 cups all-purpose flour. It does not need to be sifted. But what we do need to do is we need to lighten the flour. So the best thing to do is just to put your cup in there and just lighten it. Just, take it and just lighten up so it's not too packed. And then we're gonna level it off, usually with a knife, but I didn't bring a knife, so let's just level it with a spoon. And we're gonna put in 1. And one more time, we're going to lighten the flour. Just lighten it up so it's not too packed. We're going to use a lot of this because it's got to be gone by November 30th. Lesson to be learned, always check the day before you buy it, not after you get home. Hence to Nanny Bubby. Okay, for those of you joining me late, the flour I bought expires in 1 month. I don't know how that happened. Okay. All right, so there's 2 cups of flour. Let me put the top back on, wherever it went, right here. Okay, we put the expiration date, as I said, right on the back side of it. Let me lift that up and show all of you. Can't get it broke. Okay, so there with the Sharpie, I put the date, 11/30/21, comes off with a little bit of soft scrub and a sponge. And we will redate it as soon as we dump this in the garbage or use it all. Okay, from here we're going to put in 1/3 of a cup. So happy and excited to do this. Very tightly packed down. 1/3 of a cup of my soft brown sugar. Isn't that so nice? Finally, I figured out how to do it. The white bread never worked for me. So we're going to take this, open it up. Put our 1/3, oh, it smells like beautiful brown sugar. Oh my gosh, so nice. There we go, 1/3 of a cup of brown sugar. Now we're going to take this, roll it up. There we go, burp out the air. And we're gonna grab this disc, like this, and just put it right in, right there on the edge. Put this top back on. And that brown sugar is going to be good all the way through the holidays. So I'll have to tell Harmony that worked out so nicely. Okay, wiping up now from the OXO water. Made a mess, very wet, but nonetheless. Okay, next we're going to add a teaspoon of baking powder. So what I do this time of year, and here's a Nanny Bubby tidbit, is that you should always go through your spices right before the holidays start every year. So September, October is my time to do it. And just dump out all your spices, all your flour, all your powdered sugar. And you know, unfortunately, all of these spices come in large containers. They will last forever, but what happens is after a year or 2 or 3, they end up losing all of their flavors. So the richness of flavor just isn't there. So that's why you really want to replace them. And another tidbit I wanted to share with you is that this is whole nutmeg. Can you see that? This whole nutmeg. I've been looking for it, and I've always looked for it in the produce section. Go figure, I found it today at Albertsons in the spice section. So I was really excited. And Roseanne said the good news about the old flour, regular flour, tends to last 6 to 8 months past its printed date, while whole wheat, I love Roseanne, while whole wheat is best for an extra 4 to 6 months, according to healthline.com. I wonder if she just looked that up. Did you just look that up? Okay, so, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Here we go. Let's get moving through it all. I have 2 sets of spoons here today. It's very sweet. Okay, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of baking powder. Okay, so let's grab this 1 teaspoon of baking powder. So I am not going to put all of these away yet because I'm going to wait. Yeah, she said, of course she did. I'm going to put the baking powder and everything away after I take what's old in stock and dump it from my cupboard. And then I'm going to use my Sharpie to put on here the date that I bought this. So let's see, today's date is October 25th. So I bought this 10, 25, 21. I'm going to write by. Because sometimes I forget, was that the expiration date or is that the buy date? So that date is on there, that way I remember. I won't keep it for too long. And I found Clabber Girl, which I love. I love the fact that these are in like a solid container, sort of a lined cardboard, and that it has the plastic top, which keeps the air from getting in. And this is Clabber Girl baking soda. And I just love the container that it's in. It feels like it's going to be kept fresher than, you know, the Arm & Hammer, which I love, box. It sits open in your cupboard, and I don't like that. So I usually put it in a Ziploc bag, but no more. I can just use this with its plastic top, and we're going to put in a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. So here we go, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Have any of you seen or used the Clabber Girl? I love this. Okay. Now, from there we are going to do cinnamon, baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon of the ground cloves. Here we go, organic ground cloves. I love that. Where did you find that? Believe it or not, Albertsons. And I actually went to find, wait a minute, 3/4 teaspoon. Let me find this. So you know what? Let's see. How much cinnamon? 1 teaspoon. Well, I only put a 1/2 teaspoon in, so I better reach back in. There's my mistake. I grabbed the wrong spoon, thinking this was a teaspoon, but it's not. It's a 1/2. So we're going to do that. Now we're going to put in a teaspoon of the ground cloves, for which this top is not big enough. So here we go. Ground cloves. 3/4 teaspoon. So that'll do it. 3/4 teaspoon of the ground cloves. So I found it at Albertsons. Did I already tell you that? Lene says she has it. That's awesome. A 1/2 teaspoon of the ground ginger. There we go. Let's wipe this out. I don't like to, you know, I don't want to contaminate one seasoning or spice with another. So, okay, 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. Here we go. I love these. I really have fallen in love with the McCormick organic spices. I just, I find them really rich. I find that they have things that the other spices don't have. There we go, 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger. So I'm really high on them. Okay, and then let's see, nutmeg, cloves, nutmeg right here, and another 1/2 teaspoon of the nutmeg. All right. Now what's going to surprise you is I brought my mixer out. Hey, Teresa, there you are. Oh, so, you know, while most of you are here, let me just talk to you. Oops. A little extra nutmeg, maybe never hurt anybody. Let's just get some of that out. So let me talk to you about our class, what we're going to do for our Zoom. I just got back very late last night, so I'm a little bit behind on the 8 ball. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of our 9 winners, including myself. I'm going to connect us all in a Facebook instant message group. And let's all get on there, talk about dates, talk about, I really need to hear back from you what you'd like out of the Zoom class with me, those of you that have won, who you might be inviting, and how we'd like it to go, because I'd love to set the agenda based on what all of you truly, truly desire. Some of you wrote on the, I didn't know who wrote, but some of you, I found that you wanted to have, you know, sort of make-ahead dishes, which I'm happy to provide, or tell you how I do the make-ahead, if you'd like. So I will be connecting us maybe today, if not first thing tomorrow morning. Okay, so I got to take my husband to get his tuxedo shirt for the weekend. So here is, it says for 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, I'm putting in 1/2 teaspoon and then some, because you know salt and me, when it comes to baking, we always double the salt in whatever it is that we're baking. Okay, and Joanne said the elongated measuring spoons really work well to fit in the spice jars. Well, where do I find those, Joanne? Because I get very frustrated by you're talking, they're kind of rectangular, and I bet, I always wondered who would want to use those, and now, believe it or not, I just understood why. So, whoop, sorry about that noise. There you go. So where do I find those elongated ones? I would like very much, because I need to be able to get into these little skinny McCormick jars. All right, so the next thing is 1/2 cup 1 stick butter. So this is what we're going to do. This is my little trick to making sure, Amazon. Okay, thank you. Of course, Amazon. Why don't you post the link in Gather with Nanny Bubby? And that way I can just click on your link and go get it. There you go, and anybody else can as well. Thank you. Okay, so this is how you measure butter. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this is the way that we're going to do this. If you look at butter, butter is considered a solid, and so you would need to measure butter in a dry measuring cup. The problem with butter or shortening in a dry measuring cup is there's too many bubbles. And so you're not getting the proper measurement. So if it says 1 stick and you just put in 1 stick, you're good as gold. But unfortunately for me, I buy, and I know that they come in 1 and, you know, single sticks like this. But this one, I was at Albertsons today, and this only came in the double stick cube. So what's a girl to do? So let me show you my little hack. So we're going to take a measuring cup. We are going to put, let's see, this calls for 1/2 cup of butter. So we're going to fill this up to 1 cup with water. And I'm going to use cold water. So give me 1 minute. I have to get that out of my refrigerator because we want the butter to stay very, very cold. And I'm coming. Okay, there we go. So whenever you're measuring liquid, you always place it down onto the countertop. You always want it, hey Mark Goldberg, good to see you. You always want it to be very, very still. And this says eye level with it exactly 1 cup. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put the butter into the measuring cup with the water. And when the water goes up to 1.5 cups, then we know that we have exactly 1/2 cup of butter. So I'm going to try to eyeball it. Always better to be a little less than a little more because I hate taking it out. Once you get it in, take it apart, and we're going to stick this right into the water. And it is, well, just a little shy of 1/2 cup. So let's take a little more. Put it down in there. And that is exactly a half cup of butter. Got it? 1 cup of water, you put a half a cup of the solid in there. And now you know you have the exact measurement you need. You do not want to put it into a dry measuring cup and make it soft. You don't want this butter soft. You definitely want it cold. And so that's how you do that. Surprise? Or not surprise. Many of you probably already do this, but I love that little trick. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, according to the ingredients, is we're gonna put flour, sugar, cinnamon, baking powder, cloves, ginger, nutmeg, baking soda, and salt, and we're gonna add the cold butter using our fingers. So I'm just gonna break this up right now. Thanks for the thumbs up on the little trick, you guys. Any comments there? Oh, that's great to know, isn't it? Like, I was thinking to myself, why have I struggled with this all these years? And some things, and you know, I remember, for those of you who might have taken a home ec class when you were young, they stopped giving those classes as time went on, but you probably remember learning how to measure shortening or butter by utilizing a cup of water and that. So into this bowl, and we are going to knead this dough with the butter. So I originally was going to use a mixer, but this recipe actually calls for it to be hand kneaded, if you will. Hey Ruth Urban, how are you? So nice to see you joining us. You must be very interested in pumpkin scones. So here we go. Let's see. So this is supposed to roll, not roll, but knead out into little peas. I really do think this would have been easier if I'd used my mixer. But I'm going to keep working it and see what happens to it until it resembles coarse crumbles, is what it's saying. You want that butter to be very, very cold because that will melt as it goes into the scones, and it makes the scones then very, very moist. So this does not feel like it's coming together. Sometimes I think what you need to do, here we go. Okay. Well, as we put the liquid in there, Joanne says, heavy duty stainless steel measuring spoons with slim design for narrow spice jars. 6-piece measuring spoons, stainless steel, excellent. Thank you so much, Joanne. Okay. Her name is Joanne, her husband's name is Don, and they share Facebook accounts, so we have to always remember to call Don Winderman Joanne. Okay, all right, so that's the dry ingredients. It's very coarse crumbles now, and we're gonna go now into the liquid that we're gonna add. And we're gonna take a large measuring bowl. Now, for those of you, I love these little, let me show you these. These are liquid measuring cups. They come in a stack. I think I got these at Sur La Table, and they do 8 ounce, 6 ounce, half, and then by tablespoons. And this recipe calls for 3 tablespoons of milk. And so to not measure 3 tablespoons and it goes all over, and God only knows that, you know, it doesn't get all good. You know, sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. This little piece of measuring cup came, and you can see that it goes by the tablespoons, 2 tablespoons, 3 tablespoons, 4. So we are going to add, whisk together the pumpkin puree. Let's see how much pumpkin puree they say to put in. A half of a cup. Yes, Lisa, I would use a pastry blender, but I'm not there yet. This was just the dry ingredients, so that's why I'm not there. So we're going to take a half a cup of this pumpkin puree. Here we go. Let's see if we can add just a little bit more to that. Make sure that it's, oh, this just looks so beautiful. It's actually better when it's sat just a little bit. So into the liquid measuring cup, just so we can blend our liquids, and then we will put them into this, into the dry ingredients, and then we'll roll it out onto my food grade hydrogen peroxide disinfected granite. So it's all clean, ready for us to roll it out. Okay, there's that. Now we are going to put in the milk, I think. Ooh, did you see that? Well, I've still got, it must have just been a teaspoon because I've still got, well, I have milk all over me, but it didn't seem to take the measurement down too badly. So, okay, milk, 1 egg. Let me grab the egg, 1 large egg. Well, and I think in this case, the cold egg actually is helpful because it helps with the keeping that butter nice and cold. So we're not making this egg room temperature like we do normally. I am wiping the milk off of me that I spilled. Okay, what's next? Milk, egg, and vanilla. Okay, I did not see this, but I'm going to grab it right now. I'm going to grab my homemade vanilla. This vanilla was made with vodka as opposed to bourbon. So all the ones I made to give away as gifts were made with bourbon back at the end of September, but this is vodka. So let me grab it. Ah, look at the richness. Just look at how rich. So I made this in May, and you can see that I haven't used much of it, although I refilled it with the vodka. So I think that, you know, I put in an extra couple of vanilla beans, and that's the great thing. You can just keep your vanilla going for 30 years, just as long as you just keep topping it off with an extra few vanilla beans and some extra vodka. So great use of maybe bad vodka, meaning, you know, somebody gives you a gift of vodka and it's not Grey Goose. You could always make vanilla with it. So let me smell. Oh, it's so, oh, it's just so rich and so good. It's just absolutely delicious. Okay, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. So let's find the proper spoon here, and we are going to 1, 2, and some vanilla beans came out and got on there. Delish. Okay. Oh, I poured it in the wrong thing. Well, I don't think it's going to kill me. All right, let's take this, whisk it up. That vanilla was supposed to be in here, but anyway, I think we'll just have to fake it, right? We'll just have to fake it. Let me take this and close it up so it can continue to get nice and rich. Okay, and now we are going to pour the mixture over the dry ingredients and stir using a rubber spatula, soft dough form. So I'm going to use a very small baby spatula because I think that if you use a big one, sometimes you can overmix it and make it very, very tough. So let's see, let me move this back so you can see it. Get it all out. There we go. So, you know, I am not a baker. I never professed to be a baker, and I spend very little time in the sweetness of life, meaning that I just pass very frequently on donuts, cakes, cookies, pies. I cannot tolerate the sugar. I get very, very sick, and it's really, really hard for me. So this is one of the few times that any of you are actually, in the last year, I can't count even on one hand how many times I've actually baked. Usually I am a cook, and you know, those are 2 very different things. Number 1, baking is a very precise art. And it's really quite funny because Tanya was teasing me about how precise I am with things, and I like to make things precise. But when I cook, it is the one thing that I do not like to be precise with. And so as a result, the baking art eludes me because it's just too precise for me. I like to use my intuition and feel my way through my cooking, and you just have to follow instructions when it comes to baking. And I don't like that. So we're gonna mix this around, and And I'm gonna throw, oh, this is just getting nice. And we are going to use a rolling pin to roll this out right on the countertop. This is really terrific. And we're gonna place this, you can just smell the pumpkin. Oh my gosh, this pumpkin. And if it is a little too dry, I'm not gonna add water, I'm not gonna add milk, I'm just gonna add a little extra pumpkin, which I don't think it needs, but if it did, that's exactly what I would do. The butter is in there, the butter is, look at this. This is just incredible. There we go. Okay, let me just rinse these gloves, or maybe even better yet, this is really ready to rock and roll. Hey Lucy, there you are. Beautiful dough, it actually is. Okay, let me take this, let me grab I'm gonna take the ring off, and hopefully if I go looking, you all can remind me what I did with it. Let me reach in here. We're gonna throw I love when I'm making a mess. I feel like I'm being very successful with what I'm doing. Okay, so again, I use food grade hydrogen peroxide to wipe down this counter after it was actually disinfected. Maria was here today, and dried it, made sure it was dried really good. And now we're gonna take this dough and just put it right out onto the countertop. Oh, it's just beautiful. And we are going to knead it out into a rectangle, 10 by 7 inch rectangle. So let me get all the last bit of dough. You grab a rolling pin here. And we need to reach in and grab a little more flour to put on the rolling pin. Okay. That's a lot of flour. Go. Get it out of the way a little bit. Okay, here we go. So we're going to do 10 by 7. So I don't know how many of you have a food, if you have a food, what do you call it? Measure, or ruler, food ruler that you keep in your kitchen, but I do have one. And I'm going to take that ruler and we're going to measure in just a minute. So 10 by 7. You know, when you're baking, I have found that 10 inches is much smaller than it is when you're measuring wrapping paper, believe it or not. So this looks like it could be almost 10. Let's see. Grab my ruler, stand by. 10 by 7. This looks more like 10 by 5 to me, but let's see. So here we go. This is exactly 10. I cannot believe it. And this is 6.5. So we're gonna roll it out. Hey, Lo, how are you? We are making pumpkin scones because your sister-in-law loves pumpkin scones, and it is always my joy and pleasure to give her, Lo is Harmony's sister-in-law, to give Harmony what she loves for her birthday, which are these pumpkin scones. And I don't know if you joined us last week, Lo, but we made homemade pumpkin from scratch. So this pumpkin is, in fact, I think Lo was here when I made this pumpkin scones, and I made it with pumpkin pie mix rather than pumpkin puree. And so they kind of turned out a little bit funky, but I think they still tasted good. Okay, this is 10 inches by, yep, 7 inches. So now the key is we have to cut this. And this is really tricky. I always wondered how they made this into triangles. And finally, you know, ask and you should receive the answer. And finally I did. So let me show you what I'm going to do. You very experienced bakers probably already know this trick, but we're going to take this rectangle and we're going to cut it in half, just like this. There we go. Let me cut that just a little bit more. There we go. Then we're going to cut it in half again. And then we're going to take each quarter here, just move this out. And we're going to take each quarter and cut it in half, just like that. Make a little triangle out of it. Pick this up and put it right on the baking tray. There we go. Kind of oblonged a little bit. There we go. I think I should probably put a little bit of flour on this. It's got the silicone mat, but I really, here we go. Okay, I want you all to see this. Take another one and place it right this way. So I might only be able to get 4 on here and probably have to start another dish to make these. Somebody should tell Harmony that her mommy is making her favorite pumpkin scones. And yes, they do look good. So this is what I'm going to do with these pumpkin scones, you guys, is I'm going to put them in the freezer at this point. I'm going to cover them in parchment. I'm going to put them in the freezer for safekeeping until tomorrow. I'm going to take them out about an hour before I bake them for the show tomorrow. And what happens is that what I am told is that when you make these pumpkin scones, what makes them so good, and of course this is the Starbucks copycat recipe, what makes these so good is that they are shipped back and forth to Starbucks frozen, and it's the freezing of the butter that makes these so incredibly good. So that is why I'm going to freeze them, and tomorrow I am going to take 2 of them and I'm going to pull out 2 and I'm going to bake them for all of us to see and put the, and this way I can have them and bring her a fresh scone every other day or 1 a week until her birthday comes along. So I'm feeling really excited about that. I'm also really excited that I finally learned how to cut these in triangles. Now I know that it seems like that, duh, how did you not figure that out? But I always thought that they were a triangle cutter and that you cut into the dough. And I kept going to every Williams-Sonoma and said, hey, do you have a triangular cookie cutter? And nobody had it. And I just couldn't understand how everybody was figuring out how to make these scones in triangles but me. But lo and behold, I realized that cutting them was the key. So that's it for today, everybody. Tomorrow we're going to make the glaze, and then we're going to make the glaze and then the frosting. So they're double frosted, double glazed, double frosted. So tomorrow I'll pull these out of the freezer, and remember I gave Lois a triangle scone pan. No, I do not remember that. I will have to check with her. That's awesome. I will have to check with her. So that's it for today, everybody. Love you. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, go out and spread love, like better. Have a wonderful evening, you too. Bye, everybody. Blowing flour all over you. Bye.